I think back as I'm sitting here to when I was younger and taking my first initial steps into the metal scene, very much in my introductory years. And I consider how I would have regarded opera back then, or anything of an operatic twist. Opera doesn't necessarily have broad appeal as a genre. And as a kid, I think I would have dismissed it. Speaking again of opera in its standard form, not with the metal integration. But yet, having heard what SIRENIA has done, and they're not the first, to be fair, especially in specific reference to the European scene. Snow White Blood was my first introduction into metal with an operatic twist in the vocals. I'm part of Uli Perhonen, their lead vocalist, and if you haven't listened to Snow White Blood, I would easily recommend them. SIRENIA has filled me with adoration and awe, especially given over the days that I haven't covered SIRENIA since the last track, which would have been Into the Night, off of Arcane Astral Aeons. I've only covered 2 thus far. I'm going to re-engage them as I promised. I have a pretty wide library of tracks to consult. Still in the single digits, but I've got a couple planned. But coming off of Into the Night, I'm still a bit dazed. I mean, I'm impressed. And I've seen this type of integration in the metal scene before, not necessarily with opera, but maybe with other elements, even broader than Europe. Let's say, for example, in America, I've seen other artists maybe along the rock and metal lines, let's say NF and Falling in Reverse, perhaps, on the rap side. They've integrated what is normally, to me, like opera, something I'm not a big rap guy, so generally I kind of dismiss that genre, other than maybe a couple exceptions I make, and yet listening to those particular artists, I'm like, there's some creativity here, there's some invention and freshness and originality. And I find it very attractive, much so that those tracks have become top listens on my playlist for many years. Or in the case of Falling in Reverse, I'd be a devoted fan for about a year. I'm still relatively young in my introduction to them. They're great artists, by the way, too. If you're looking for something along the lines of aggressive metal with an original flair, Falling in Reverse is so captivating. But SIRENIA, that operatic twist, very original, interesting to listen to, and they're gifted musicians. I would easily throw that label to Morten Veland. I'm very impressed with his offerings, and that's, again, if you haven't heard my story before, I'll keep this simple, but it's how I approached SIRENIA, through Mortemia, Morten Veland's solo project. That's how I became aware of him, and I kept seeing attribution of this name, SIRENIA. I saw it all over the place. I'm like, okay, I need to engage them at some point, and I'm glad I did. They're very talented, and I'm part of Emmanuelle Zoltan's beautiful vocal range. I mean, she's quite impressive, but again, Into the Night just takes you back on how good it is. So I'm engaged, and even on just the metal side, it's aggressive, it's right in your face in terms of its a strength and its open rage, but with a beautiful flair in the musical construction. I'm very excited to gauge more from them and broaden out my European library. Many of you know how much I love this scene, in particular with metal. They are thriving right now. And as I brought in music as well in coverage focus on this channel, this has been a long ambition of mine, and over the present year, it's evolving quite well. I mean, it certainly did over 2022, but in 2023, it's only going to expand even more, and I'm very happy with the destination in mind of where we're going on that front. Because I cover a wide range of artistic ventures, if you're not familiar, but for me, it's music. It's always been a first love. And exploring a round of European artists, especially on fresh glances, which many of these introductions that I've taken on this channel have been, it's a rewarding experience. And I hope for many of you, and I'm assuming some of you are coming to this video knowing who SIRENIA is and you're very familiar with their offerings, and you're watching somebody engaging them for the first time, and is still very much in its early days of an embrace of another particularly talented group. But for some of you, again, I cover a broad range of artists, in part with the goal that if you're in a position that I've been, perhaps in different situations, and artist shopping, looking to see where talent is, but maybe you don't know where to look, that this channel, if I can manage this, provides routes for you, especially within Europe. And I'll tell you, I don't have many connections in regard to, other than many wonderful, pleasant interactions I've had with many of you who have graced the comment sections of my videos related to European artists. I don't have this type of connection in my personal life, and so it's been great to engage not only with familiar listeners to many of these groups that I cover, but also to new listeners, engaging your first thoughts on like, wow, this artist is impressive, I've never heard them before. I do hope to forge those paths if you're somebody in that position looking for a new artist, because Europe just has a wealth of supply, and many artists of which I've got in the running in consideration I haven't even approached yet. SIRENIA, currently though, I'm broadening out what I've heard, and 2 tracks in, I'm very impressed. Let's expand with Love Like Cyanide, a bit of an ominous title. I mean, I think of Cyanide in terms of maybe, because I cover cinematic ventures more routinely, it's even always a negative connotation, especially in the visual space. So I'm wondering to see if there's a bit of an irony here in the presentation. I haven't pulled or looked at the lyrics in full yet. I'm actually going to pull those up right now. We are going to engage the piece together. I've got the lyric video pulled up, which I guess is kind of it's a lyric video slash a visualizer. Actually, I don't need to pull up the lyrics. In fact, it's a lyric video. Whatever. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the piece so we can couple imagination and visual presentation with a, I'm sure, engrossing song. And for somebody who's not familiar with the way I format my coverage, I try and provide every combination that I can. In part, I provide the lyric videos to give you, if you're somebody that likes to read along with the narrative of the piece, that's available too. Normally, I have to superimpose the lyrics manually. I don't in this case. You can just read them off right when the video is playing. Anyway, and probably get a brilliant performance, I'm sure, from the band, broadly speaking, and Emmanuel Zoltan. Really fun to watch her sing again. Again, it's been a couple days since I first listened to Into the Night, and I'm excited to hear more. I'm really engaged for this. Piano ballad.
Can't you see? Tell me why you're still lingering in a world of strife.
I like this mixture of that softer interlude. It's good scene setting, but then her vocals have this aggressive freneticness, and then now the music's kicking in. With that atmosphere that Morton Veland does so well, and the band broadly.
Here we go, once again. Nothing's changed, all remains the same.
If I'm hearing a background scream, that's great. Or it's her, I think it was a background scream. I was gonna say either that or Emmanuel straining her voice a bit. Great. No, it's Morton. I knew it was a scream. He's so good. Nice pauses. A bit of an ironic twist, like cyanide isn't a pleasant thing. Not like a rose or something, so this type of love is not enviable. But it makes for a very dramatic song. We're taking a bit of a segue here, I'm assuming. Differential tone, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a jump. It's a longer song at over 5 minutes, so if there's a switch, I'm curious to see if it ever reverts at all. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a full-on break, which is great, by the way. A lot of variety to this piece, a lot of exploration. It doesn't feel like it's caught in one frame. Wonderful place for a breakdown. I love frenetic riffs like that, especially in American metal. It's wonderful to hear it in Europe. And it's such a strong proficiency. Perfect transition. I knew it'd segue back in because this introduction is really strong. Quite a departure we took with that verse though. We still have over 2 minutes to go. The strings break. Again, it just feels like SIRENIA hits every measurement they can. It doesn't feel static at all, or like it exists in one territory. Segue back in. Oh, wonderful. Let the strings be the defining path. That's great. It feels like they're leading the song. I love that. I love orchestral experiences, so. Oh, nice. That's beautiful. A lovely piece. See why I love European metal if you haven't been introduced properly? It's just such a wonderful territory to engage with. I mean, again, I've listened to a broad range of groups at this point. Many, and I have many to go. We've got a wealth of them in mind. I continually take recommendations as well from my comment section, and there's been many names that have been thrown in, my path. And I'll engage all of them, hopefully, God willing. SIRENIA temporarily, though, is wonderful. I love the orchestral atmosphere to it. Again, I'm a big symphonic metal guy. Easily jives with me, and that is a mainstay in Europe from quite a variety of groups from all different types of countries, and I've been all over that space, not just necessarily rooted in like Germany or Sweden to label at least particular ventures of where I've gone. I've been all over, and there's just so much variety even in the European landscape and the metal territory, but it's all just so dang attractive. SIRENIA? I have the highest of compliments, really, with their pieces. I mean, there's just such a strength to them, not just in the metal energy, and that's great. I mean, I love those hard riffs, the breakdown sessions. I mean, that was just great. Like, you're putting on some Trivium-style riffs. I'm like, Trivium, if you're not familiar, American-based. I also recommend them. They're great. But that one section in mid, I'm trying to figure out where it is. I think where he says the candle's burning. Yes. That whole section was fabulous. But then again, you have all these softer sections that come in as well in varying circumstances, but it all feels like one united piece. In particular, because the chorus has a very distinct structure, and they revert back to that quite well. I like the fact that there's consistency. Sometimes I look at certain groups, and some artists will employ a key change or a measure change that feels disruptive in some sense, and I've liked many examples of what I've heard if translated well enough, and if it feels like the song deserves to take a side venture. But I also like songs that return to that original vision, because sometimes you just fall in love with the way the key is originally illustrated first, and then once you hear that particular measure, you don't want in any way to deviate from that, because you fall in love with the way it's illustrated prior to hearing it again on a second variation. I like that this song returns back to its original formation as it began. Even from its origin, I mean, the piano key opener is wonderful as an enticing opener. Even I would imagine for someone who's not necessarily the most engaged with metal, you might listen to softer stuff. And even in the metal space, there's such a variety. I think SIRENIA captures that atmosphere quite well and that range. It doesn't feel, like I said, in any way static or so reliant on one particular trait. And, I might like songs to take on a more aggressive path, right? I also love songs, though, with scope. And SIRENIA always provides that. Very illustrative videos as well. I'm thinking as well in regards to Mortemia's attribution, this is sort of where his creative style of visualizers came from. I don't know. I would assume. Because it was a pleasant documentation to watch, quite frankly. It's beautiful to engage with this group. Again, I love Europeans, and SIRENIA is just another example of why I'm so in love with this space. They really have so much to offer as a group. I'm very impressed. And I hope for those of you that this is a fresh experience for you and you've never engaged with SIRENIA before, you have the same response. But that's a very long song, too, to engage their talents. Nearly 6 minutes. It's got such a good scope, though. I hope you fell in love with it as much as I did. I mean, I've been in love with them since I first covered them twice, but continuing on that journey, I'm very happy to proceed forward. And I hope you are too with me, because I got a couple more songs I'm going to consult from them. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I'm going to engage probably like many of you as well and look at some of their past contributions in their library. I haven't done that yet. Not like from prior to Arcane Astral Aeons. That's the first I've engaged with the group in terms of an album release. And coming up, I think it's actually the last track that I've lined up to engage with this particular issue. I think next... Let me look this up for a second. I think next is the current album, and I forget the name of it at the moment. That being, let's see, SIRENIA, Riddles, Ruins, and Revelations. I love the alliteration, by the way. Yes, that is the next album. So I'm currently done with Arcane Astral Aeons, and it's been fun. I can't wait to listen to the rest of the album on my own, but I'm excited to start the new entry. I hope you guys are too with me. And again, for those of you, if you so wish to disclose your perspective down below, I'd love to hear the angle you come from. Whether you're an established SIRENIA fan, you're probably like, here's another European group who's consulting that we've recommended. True. I think SIRENIA has been recommended to me. I don't think it was just a name I saw in passing. But if you're somebody that's familiar with them, or this is a fresh introduction for you, and I hope for many of you that is the case, because I would love to hear about your experiences down below if you would enjoy a session with me in listening to beautiful music, again, from the standpoint of Europeans. It's always a treat. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on it. I can't wait to hear more. Love Like Cyanide, another fantastic edition, as I knew it would be. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.